Hello friends. In today's episode we will be sharing the horrible story about the killer clown, who became the main character of many TV series and movies. On December 11, 1978, America confronted a shocking event that would leave an indelible mark for years to come. That year, a young man named Robert Piest disappeared. The last person to see Robert Piest was John Wayne Gacy. The police promptly initiated the tracking of Gacy. What they encountered upon arriving at Gacy's house would remain etched in their memories for many years. Robert Piest was working at a pharmacy. He was only 15 years old when he mysteriously disappeared on December 11, 1978. According to witnesses, Robert Piest was last seen with John Wayne Gacy. On the day Robert Piest disappeared, John Gacy came to Piest's workplace and said that he paid young people $5 each hour at his company, and that Piest could work for him too if he wanted. After leaving work, Gacy told his mother that someone at the office had offered him a job and that he was going for a job interview. As he left the building, he casually remarked, "This won't take long." This was the last time Robert Piest was seen alive. When Robert didn't return home, his mother immediately contacted the police. The only suspicious person was John Wayne Gacy. Upon investigating Gacy, the police discovered his dark past of serving a prison term for sexual assault. Gacy's murky history prompted the police to search his home. Together with detectives, the police headed to Gacy's residence on the evening of December 12, 1978, to begin their search efforts. John Gacy said that he saw two young people at the pharmacy that day but did not offer them a job. According to John Gacy, everything Robert Piest's mother said was a lie. The police investigating Gacy's house discovered a place that could only be entered by crawling. There was a moldy smell inside the house, and the rotten sewer pipes seemed to be the cause of this smell. Therefore, the police did not dwell on this detail. After a short investigation, no significant evidence was found. When the police came to the house for the second time, detectives took the evidence samples for examination. One of the pieces of evidence was going to put Gacy in a very difficult situation. John Gacy was now under constant surveillance. To get out of this situation, he offered bribes to the police many times and was seen having lunch with people in authority. On December 18, 1978, he sued the police for going after an innocent man. However, a receipt found in Gacy's kitchen on the same day, December 18, 1970, changed the entire course of the events. After further investigation, it was discovered that the receipt belonged to Robert Piest. John Gacy, who had said he had no contact with Robert Piest, was now found to have given false testimony. On the same day, a neighbor of John Gacy said that in the summer of 1977, he had seen bags of lime in the entryway of John Gacy's house, proving that John Gacy had met with Robert Piest. The police began investigating every detail about Gacy. On December 19, 1970, at 8 o'clock, Gacy invited two officers to his house and told them he was innocent. One of the officers noticed the television in the room. It was exactly the same television that belonged to someone named John who went missing last year. Even the damage of the television was exact the same. On the evening of December 20, 1978, the fate of the missing Robert Piest was solved, and then Americans were introduced to the serial killer clown, who would become the main character of many TV series and movies. On the evening of December 20, 1978, John Gacy first met with his lawyers in Park Ritchie, and then he came to the police station saying that he was going to make a statement. He knew that it was the end and wanted to confess everything himself. When he got to the police station, he was in disarray. He had too much to drink. When he met with his lawyers, the first thing he told the police was that the child died and is now in the river. The child he referred to was Robert Piest. Police went to that location immediately. Gacy's confessions continued into the early morning hours. Gacy said he invited Robert Piest and many other young men to his home to show them tricks. John Wayne Gacy was a businessman who was also involved in politics. In his spare time, he would attend charity events and dress up as a clown for sick and orphan children. Gacy admitted to killing more than 24 people, all of them young men. John Gacy told the police that he buried most of his victims in his house and drew them a map of the inside of the house. The garage and the garden of the house were filled with the lifeless bodies of the victims. The property, which looked like a house from the outside, was almost a cemetery. He showed a detailed drawing of a total of 28 graves. Later in the following hours, he said he had killed 4 more victims and dumped them in the ground. Overall, Gacy confessed to the murder of 33 young boys. The fame of the house increased day by day, and many people, including tourists, came to that neighborhood to see the house in those years. Gacy paused for a moment while the detectives were testifying and said, "There are 4 people in me: the prudent John, the clown John, politician John, and the 4th one, Jack Henley." Apparently it was John Henley who was the killer. John Henley was the man who committed all these murders. John Gacy answered most of the questions asked by the detectives. For some of the more difficult questions, he said, "Ask Jack that," and avoided answering them. Gacy said that he committed his first murder in January 1970 on January 2. The excavations took much longer than expected because of the winter season and the frozen ground. The victims were buried very close to each other. By the end of January, 25 bodies in the house had been located and exhumed. It took 5 weeks just to exhume the bodies. Meanwhile, Robert Runway's body was not found in the river for a long time, and the search for the body took until April 1970. John Gacy was born in 1943. His father was an alcoholic and abused John Gacy and his 2 sisters. People in his neighborhood described Gacy as a child who loved his father and desperately sought his attention. When Gacy was 11 years old, he was hit in the head by a swing and suffered blackouts until he was 16 years old and took medication. In the 1960s, he started a business and was successful. In 1960, he married and worked in a chicken restaurant owned by his wife's father, but went to prison for sexual abuse. On October 18, 1970, he was released from prison with the help of his mother, started a business again, and married a recently divorced widow. In his spare time, he would throw house parties for his neighbors and entertain them dressed as a clown. And many times he attended parties for hospitals and charities dressed as a clown. He was also interested in politics and was even photographed with Rosalynn Carter, the wife of Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States. The trial of John Wayne Gacy began in 1980 and lasted for 5 weeks, during which more than 100 witnesses were called to testify. John Gacy's lawyers argued that Gacy was mentally ill and should be placed in a clinic. However, the jury decided to impose a death sentence to Gacy. Gacy was sent to correctional facility where he would stay for 14 years. On May 9, 1990, John Wayne Gacy had his last meal. He had fried chicken, potatoes, and strawberry cake. 7 prison officials described Gacy as angry and talkative man. Gacy was executed by lethal injection at midnight on May 10, 1990, at 4 a.m. His last words were, "Kiss my ass."